Hello, Carla Hartley here. Today I am going to be discussing a very important international treaty that affects child custody. That is the Hague Convention of 1980 on the civil aspects of international child abduction. Is a very significant document, and there are many, many signatory nations to this document. Just as importantly, there are many nations who have not signed on to this treaty. So I think this is a good time for me to have this discussion with you. We have an increasingly smaller world. Although the pandemic seemed to isolate us all more from one another because most of us kind of were precluded from going. For instance, we weren't going to court that often. We could only go when there was an emergency hearing. And now we're only going for emergency hearings and trials. So in that respect, our world seems to have gotten bigger because it's harder to get places. But the reality is every day our world gets smaller. Travel is more convenient. It's, the airplane, the jet industry has just transformed our world. And now we have people visiting all over. We have so many immigrants to the state of California, to the state of Texas, to the various states in the United States, and they have family in other places. So today I'm going to be discussing the Hague Convention, but I'm going to use a case that recently came down from the Second Appellate District in California as an illustration of how important the Hague Convention Treaty is, why you should know something about it, especially if you have married a foreign national. Even if they become a citizen here, then this is something that you need to know. All right, so in this case, the facts of the case commence in the early 2000s. The parties, husband and wife, they weren't husband and wife when they met, but they met in the early 2000s at a university here in California. Wife went on to get her law degree, and apparently so did husband. And the parties, wife established a law practice here in California, and husband established an international, I think a translation law service in the same city. So they had a couple of kids. And it's important to note here that husband was initially from Chile. He maintained his Chilean citizenship throughout this. So the parties are here, the home state, the children are born here. This is the home nation. I want to be really clear. The Hague Convention deals with nations, but it calls them states in many cases. So I'm using that term interchangeably only for this. We're going to deal with nation states. Fair enough? So over time, the parties are here, the kids are born here. So under the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act, California is the home state and United States is the home nation state of the minor children until they moved to Chile in 2016. Mom moves, dad moves, the kids move. They set up practices and set up a life in Chile. And during this time, throughout this whole proceeding, apparently, the husband was, and a lot of evidence was presented on this, increasingly abusive. Not just verbally abusive, but also physically abusive. Certainly to mother, and I think there are allegations that he was also abusive to the children. So, moving forward, now after 6 months in Chile, Chile is the home state of the minor children, the home nation state of the minor children. And the abuse is continuing and escalating, as abuse often does. And again, I'm not making allegations here, I'm reporting what is in a record. So mom, dad, and the children take a vacation to Hawaii and then to Lake Tahoe. They don't go to where mom's family are located, they go to Hawaii and Lake Tahoe. Dad he drinks heavily, becomes violent, and mom bolts to her family. While she is at Lake Tahoe, she goes on to her family in California, I think in San Luis Obispo County. So she takes the children with her. Dad sends her a text, don't ever come back to Chile. Now, he does not send a text saying it's fine for the kids to stay here. Now, the Hague Convention is a significant treaty because it governs these situations. We have a situation where we have a home state for the children, a home nation state in Chile. We have prior ties with the United States, and we have parents who are citizens of both who are not together anymore. So under the Hague Convention, the general rule is these children would have to go back to Chile because that is where the custodial dispute should be heard. However, there is an exception, and I'm going to discuss that exception with you. And I think this is important to realize, as with everything when we're talking about it in the law, at least in family law, there's almost always an exception to everything. There are very, very few hard and fast rules that won't turn differently, won't return a different result if the facts change just a little bit. So keep in mind, I am not giving you the hard and fast rule. I am using a case as an example so that you know that this is an issue that you should be aware of, that you can start looking at and discussing, and always call competent counsel who has plenty of experience with these type of cases. So anyways, Dad sues for the children to be returned to Chile, and Mom has sought a restraining order and received one in the San Luis Obispo court. So the federal court, I believe, the San Luis Obispo trial court heard father's petition and mother's request for a restraining order. The restraining order was granted, and father's petition for the return of the children to Chile was denied. And it was denied on the basis of grave risk of harm exception. This is written into the Hague Convention Treaty, where there is a grave risk of harm to the children and no ameliorative measures can alleviate the harm, then the children do not need to be returned to the home state. We have a new home nation state. So these children are going to be staying in California according to this. The California Second Appellate District found that the measures that father had suggested for protection, which are that Chilean law provides for protection from domestic violence, wouldn't be effective because he wouldn't have he would not admit that he had a problem. And I would have argued, and I believe probably counsel did argue, that those protections obviously weren't working while she was in Chile with father. So we have a bunch of stuff here that we could unpack just for hours. But my point here is you must know where you are traveling. You must know, and you should go to travel.state.gov and look for the signatories to the Hague Convention Treaty that are partners with the United States. Page 1, we can see clearly that Chile was entered into the Hague Convention on the civil aspects of international child abduction in 1994. Italy is a signatory. India is not. And if you look up the reasons why India is not, that is an interesting and whole different discussion. And as one final caveat, you don't need to just know what's going on where. You don't need to just know what's going on where in terms of what the paper says. There are some nation states, and we have had experts testify who have testified before Congress on this issue, that there are some nation states who are Hague Convention Treaty partners who have never returned a child to the United States. We have received more children home from, for instance, Afghanistan, I think the specific testimony in one case was, than we had received home from a nation that I'm not going to mention right now. So you have to look at a variety of factors when you are looking at, can I escape this situation? How do I get my children back to the United States or back to wherever I want them to go? If the United States is the home state, for the most part, any signatory to the Hague Convention is going to return those kids. We have a great relationship with Italy in getting return of kids, and they are a signatory. We have a great relationship with India in getting return of kids, and they are not a signatory. So there you go. it just goes to show you need to know who's who in the zoo. You need to know what you're doing, and the best place to get that information is from a competent family law attorney who knows what they're doing when it comes to child custody and international travel. I hope this has been helpful. I realize this is a very, very niche topic, but I hope that you, if you are going to be traveling and if you are in another country and are looking to return to the States, will read this and watch this and consider what I have said. Thank you. Bye-bye.